Welcome to the Stand on Your Investment podcast, presented by UC Hunting Properties and Expedition Land Management, where professionals from around the country will dive deep into land management strategies, investing in recreational real estate, and all things hunting.
Welcome back, folks. Another episode, or newest episode, of the Stand on Your Investment podcast. As always, I'm Kurt Headington, joined with the regulars, Chris Van Gerpen and Travis Homily. Today, we are blessed to be sitting in what I think I would call north central Michigan. We're here in Grayling, Michigan, with the A squad for UC Hunting Properties in Michigan, Chad Thelen, Lincoln Rohn. I'm going to start this before we dive into this. Grayling's cool. I learned something last night at dinner. This is the, I guess, home, let's call it, of the Fred Bear.
How about that story that Dave told us last night about when Fred would come into
the restaurant?
Yeah, they'd open it all, clear it, and he'd shoot the target on the wall. And
from the outside, he would shoot through.
Well, let's set the stage a touch, right?
Okay.
Because this is pretty neat. So Fred Bear would come in there, and this place has been open since the 30s, right? Wasn't it 1933 or something like that? So it's been around forever. But when you walk into this restaurant, super cool place, rustic, and it had swinging bar doors like you would see out in a Western tavern or something. Yeah, a saloon, right.
Yep.
So anyway, the story is that when Fred Bear would come in for lunch, they'd open the doors, and he'd shoot a target within the restaurant from outside the building.
Yep.
So pretty cool. Little nostalgia. Being a bow guy, I got a kick out of that. I had no idea that this is the Grayling, Michigan, that I guess you'd call the home
And when
of
you're
Fred Bear.
looking for Fred Bear original old bows, you have to have that coin, right? And
The
always
coin.
medallion.
The
Yeah.
coin medallion's got to say
Say
Grayling,
Grayling,
not Jacksonville.
Yep.
So fun fact, if you ever find yourself on Jeopardy and they ask something about Fred Bear or Grayling, Michigan, hopefully you can connect the dots. But pretty cool to be here. These guys are a strong real estate team in the state of Michigan, obviously known strong heritage and background for all things hunting, but I think especially archery hunting. So this is pretty cool to have you guys on today. Like I said, new members to UC Hunting Properties. Chad's had a UC office now since about 2020, so he's been with UC or United Country for the last couple of years. Just recently joined the UC Hunting Properties team, and we're stoked to have you guys. So let's dive in. First and foremost, this is a pretty dynamic team, and we're going to get into the backgrounds on both Chad and Lincoln. Chad, let's start with you. Beyond real estate, walk us through who Chad Thelen is. Give us a little of your background, and don't be super humble. Tell us about your credentials when it comes to quality deer management and your association with the NDA now, formerly QDMA. But floor's yours.
Sure. Yeah, great. Thanks. Thank you guys for coming up here. And it's a shame we couldn't be recording this out on the ice, pulling some tip-ups, getting some walleye.
We'd have been busy.
We got a great view, though,
Yeah,
where we're
it
at.
is.
I mean, looking
Great
at the
view.
lake.
We do have to thank Dave, our host, Chad's buddy. We're sitting in a lake house overlooking I don't even know what lake this is, but it's beautiful.
Marguerite.
Marguerite Lake. So that's where we're at.
In a log cabin.
In a beautiful log cabin.
Beautiful
yes.
log cabin. Plenty of room. We didn't have to sleep together. So.
Yeah, so that's my bio.
Trav
There you go.
asked, like, yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Chad, floor's yours.
That was it.
We're done.
We just covered
That's
it.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to
quick
Lincoln.
one.
Right. So, I've been a licensed real estate agent in Michigan since 2008, I think, 8 or 9. My background is grew up on a farm. Should have stuck with that, knowing what land prices are now. I mean, I look at it, I look back and think, opportunities were everything. I was too young at the time, to be buying what we had. But anyway, went to college, criminal justice. Got my degree in criminal justice. Went to work in law enforcement for almost 20 years. As I was phasing out of that, I opened a food plot consulting and planting business. That was around 2002 or so, and then as the economy started crashing 06, 07. I had a lot of clients that were Metro Detroit, Metro Grand Rapids business owners, owned land up here in northern Michigan, and I was doing food plot and habitat work for them. Those guys that own tool and die companies and concrete guys and stuff, those were the guys that were getting hurt the worst in the economy. Hey, Chad, you know anybody who would buy 40 of this 80 acres? I've got to get rid of some of it to keep the doors open at the business. And so I was pawning stuff off to, Remax or Century 21 agents or whatever. Took me about 6 months of doing that to go, hey, dumbass, why don't you go get your real estate license?
Right.
It's like $3.99 and I can
Chad,
be an agent.
Not to interrupt you, but I was just thinking about this.
Well, he's good at that.
Well, I have a good point to make here.
Okay.
I'm about to date Chad Thelen. Not like that either.
Oh, jeez.
I'm talking historical land. Easy, big fella.
I'm going to slide over.
Oh, no.
We were going to get you want to
Chad,
get the love
Chad
set?
just said something. I got thinking about this. So you were doing food plots back in, the early 2000s. I think you said 2002 even. If you stop and just pause for a second and think about that, you were doing food plots before food plots were cool.
Right.
He was one of the original habitat guys.
He's like an OG.
Everybody,
of the land
everybody,
management
Grant
game.
Woods and all these other guys are Chad. He's modest about it, but he's one of the original habitat guys, professional.
Yeah, he's an OG. We're gonna start calling you OG.
Yeah.
I need my own. I need like a throne or something to sit over here in the corner. You guys are making me blush.
Either that or a bigger cooler.
Bigger cooler.
Plenty of time left.
10-4.
All right, sorry. Back to your story. I was
where were we?
intrigued. You were.
That's.
You just got done handing off the easy deals to the home slices, and you're going to take on your own deal.
Yep. So I got my license, and it was slow starting off just because the crash. Right. Not a whole lot of stuff was moving. It would a few years down the road when the foreclosures and stuff caught up with that, but it's I've worked with a couple other brokerages and then ended up just getting my broker's license here a few years ago, and here we are. I've been maybe with 4 to 5 brokerages right now, but and people are like, geez, stick with a name, right? Because I've had Stony Creek Outdoor Properties and then Stony Creek Realty, and then I was with Michigan Whitetail Properties, and it was like, geez, are you going to find a spot and stick there? And I'm like, I'm going down a path, and as long as I don't run into a dead end, I'm just going to keep going, right? Sure. And you don't necessarily have to be stuck in one spot. If I didn't join, what's his name? Our recruiter, Tom. If Tom Panatoni from United Country didn't hound on me for 3 years, we wouldn't be here today. And so I appreciate the work that he did. Eventually got me into UC, and then ran into you guys in Fort Worth, Texas. And
28 cocktails later, here we are.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you just don't ever let your path lead to a dead end, and just keep hammering, keep having fun. We hung out and had fun and built that relationship, and it turned into, I had no idea that I would end up with a UC Hunting Properties logo on my coat today.
Right.
Who the hell ever thought that?
Well, I kind of thought it from day one when I met you, but that's just me. Just saying.
Gotcha.
He's a forward thinker.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Get her done.
Chad, get me another beer.
Yeah.
You're on no
Chad,
drink.
walk us through. We're not going to talk about no drink January yet.
Or handcuffs.
Hit us with some of your credentials, because obviously we've already established you're the OG land guy, or one of the OG land management guys in Michigan for sure. But I'm going to say in general. Literally that was, all joking aside, you were doing this stuff in enhancing properties, whether it's with food plots or different land management techniques, you were doing it before. And there's a reason you were doing it before. So just give us a snapshot in time on that as well, because, that's very intriguing to me. clearly you seen something ahead of the masses seeing it, and you did it.
I actually bought an existing business. So there was a guy that owned Michigan Food Plot Specialities. Michigan Food Plot Specialties. Something like that, and from Lansing. And he had already been doing it for several years.
Sure.
And so he was wanting to, I don't even know how I ran into him. I think at a trade show, probably during Turkey Expo or something like that. And I was at the point I was looking to get out of law enforcement. So the timing was pretty good. Sold me his book of business, and we bought all the equipment. You know, he had a 1-ton dually with a trailer, and just bought the whole package.
Sure.
So that's how it got started, and then I just morphed it into a lot more than what he was doing. He wasn't doing any CRP work, strictly food plots. So we got real heavy into planting CRP. I think my last count is I've been close to 10,000 acres. I think I've planted in prairie grass through government-funded programs and stuff like that. So with 6-foot and 10-foot no-till drills, that's some hours.
Oh,
getting
yeah.
up to
That's a lot of back and forth.
10,000.
That takes a
lot
minute.
of hours.
Yep.
Lots of brewskis. But yeah, it's been a good, dealing with the landowners can get extremely interesting, right? Because you're doing work for people that can't drive a tractor, don't know how to operate a tractor, and then you throw Mother Nature and the wrench in the works there, and if something doesn't grow, who's at fault, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, that was the interesting part of the job. But to meet fantastic, like-minded people all over the state of Michigan, right? Landowners who are passionate about hunting.
That have a strong desire to kill their neighbor's deer as well as theirs.
Draw them over, man. Suck them in.
Yep.
Yep.
Play the game.
Those giant spike horns and 4 points over here.
Yeah, so we had an interesting thing last week. Guy had just bought a piece of property. You guys, we drove by it on the up here. It literally fronts on US 27. Sold at auction, 2 different parcels, 35 acres, side by side. It's mirror images, same exact. So the guy on the south side hired me to do a consultation. The guy on the north side's interested in having me do one as well. How do you handle that one?
I'd say you both need to do all the right stuff, and you're both going to share in the victory on double the land you just bought. That's how I'd do it.
Gotcha.
Because, I mean, if they're going to battle
separately.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
100% you charge them both. But, in the grander scheme.
How about a bidding war? You can get the landowners in a bidding war to see how much information I'll give one versus the other.
Well, if they were smart, they'd just be working together, put a bunch of cellular cameras up, both stay out, make a decision on what they're killing that year or not killing, and work a plan.
Thus, you have a co-op.
Yeah, I mean, hypothetically, that is what's put places like southern Iowa on the map. I mean, it's a lot of like-minded dudes working together, and although everyone wants to be the guy killing that big buck, the reality is whoever kills it needs to be happy, and the fact is it's now repeatable. You know, everyone will have a turn eventually. But
well, I think when you're doing the land management, I mean, on your own properties or for somebody else, it's not the killing part of it. It's if they're there and you're holding them, you kind of won.
It's the process.
You know, it
really is.
It's the true victory is, of course, harvesting it, but getting them first is a victory in itself.
And even just getting one to that level, you get a deer to 5-6 years old. That's an accomplishment. So, anyway, good on that. I'm going to shift over. Lincoln Rohn, kind of famous in the world of all things cultipacking. I think everyone's heard of Packer Max at this point. And if you haven't, you do literally live under a rock because, wow, what a rocket ship ride you've put that company on and whatnot. But Lincoln, give us same thing. Give us a little background and what brought you here.
So yeah, it was kind of an interesting ride along the way. But so my original career was in the car business for 15 years, and went through a couple life changes that we were just talking about, and ended up at a small plastics company in Grand Rapids, Michigan for another 15 years. And one thing led to another, and I lost my job. And I had purchased Packer Max already, so I had it. And my wife, I was not on board with me doing that full time, and trying to get that company on the rocket ship trajectory. And so, talking to Chad, Chad was incredible in that time after I lost my job, helping me through some different, struggles, and even, employing me for some spray jobs, and just, until we figured out what we're going to do. And he said, why don't you get your real estate license and come join us? And so talked to my wife about it, and she's like, yeah, absolutely, that would be a good fallback, plus it would marry well with with the Best Outdoors Packer Max business. So so that's where that kind of all went. And obviously my Packer Max business has been kind of at the forefront of my time and energy, and real estate has been a secondary. But now that we have
third or fourth, hunting was secondary. Deer hunting.
I spent a little time in the woods this year too, but my passion's still there for for all things outdoors and properties in general. And we've owned a property. My family's owned property in Newaygo, Michigan for 40 years, and along the way I've worked on that property and turned it into a really, really, really top end deer hunting property as far as Michigan goes. And that's digging in the dirt, being outside, working with the family on the property, doing food plots. Now owning a food plot company has gone, implement company has gone right hand in hand, and then getting folded into to real estate as far as the property part of it goes for me has been big. So and as we've talked, I'm kind of getting into it, and want to start putting that on the trajectory that we've had Packer Max on. So
sure. Well, and hopefully today is an introduction at least to some of your clientele or clientele in general that Lincoln is in the game. You know, if you're looking for a farmer to expand your farm, or maybe you're looking to get out of a farm, the same phenomenon we're seeing everywhere in the Midwest. There are a lot of generational farms, and I'm saying are getting split up, sometimes for the right reasons, sometimes for the wrong reasons. Right. But in either case, you want to be represented by somebody that you can trust and have faith in that they're going to represent it properly. So, Lincoln, thanks for taking time on that. The one thing I was going to ask, and not to give any of your trade secrets away, but I know Packer Max has literally taken that space over. If you're looking for a call-to-packer, and I don't care if you're a do-it-yourselfer or running a commercial food plot business, you guys are selling a ton of them.
Yeah, we are. We're selling them all over the country. So we're based right here in Rockford, Michigan. And, that's one of the nice things about this cul-de-packer is, it takes the big old cast iron behemoths out of the equation, and it's tailored towards, a guy that has a lease or has some property and wants to do food plots and has, a quad runner in a small tractor, in a rototiller, and it puts him right into the game of producing high quality food plots for his herd, which in this whole management this whole deer management program has come a long ways. And the benefits of food plotting is it does take some of the pressure off your native habitat. It provides additional nutrition for your whitetails. And if somebody tells you that big whitetails doesn't, and if they're a hunter and they say big whitetails don't get them fired up, they're lying. Yeah. So you want to, it's become a great product for all the way down from professional food plotters to the guy that's got 10 acres that wants to do some food plots.
Well, and Lincoln, you bring up a good point, because I think in general, I guess is how I'm going to say it, everyone has always looked at food plots like very secondary, right? Like, oh, it's just a food plot, right? They don't care if they're planting a bag of corn that, is literally clean out from a farmer's planter 3 years ago. Because it's just a food plot.
Right.
And Chris and I have really worked hard to change that perception, especially with our clientele, in the fact that don't think like that, right?
Right.
The thing with the food plot is you have limited space. You need to do the best you can possibly do. And if you're competing with a farmer down the road that's got 240 bushel corn,
Right.
and you got 150, you're going to run out awfully quick.
Right.
So I just use that corn example because it kind of goes hand in hand with like the phenomenon we're seeing with your growth at Packer Max. The reality is, can you spread seed on the ground and let Mother Nature work it in? Yes. I don't think anyone would argue that. And you're probably going to have mixed results.
Right.
But you go out and you work the ground and you plant that seed and then you cultipack it and get that seed to soil contact. There's no comparison.
Right.
I mean, literally no comparison.
If you're gonna take the time, cultipating is one of the most overlooked steps of the whole process. And if you're gonna take the time and energy and money to invest in lime and fertilizer and seed, and then get it all planted and then not cultipack it, you are really shooting yourself in the foot. And
It's the same as it's as important as a soil test.
yeah,
Absolutely.
It's the same thing. If you don't do a soil test, you can throw
a lot of money away.
throw the seed. It's what so the consulting side of my business, I tell them the same. I says okay, so let's say I charge $1,000 for a day consultation. I said I can guarantee you that I'll make that money up for you by teaching you to do the soil samples, to get the right seed, to measure your seed, weigh it out, and not just, well, that probably looks good in the hopper and let it rip, right?
Well, it's just a food plot.
It's just a food
right.
plot,
Yeah.
right?
Then if it's just a food plot, why did you just spend $800 on seed and fertilize? So anyway, the cultipackers is as important as a soil test. It's like the bookends.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. It's the final step in the whole process and likely one of the most important. And it just gets your it gets your seed up and out of the ground. If you're going to put 50 pounds of seed down, you want 50 pounds of seed to grow. So it gets it up out of the ground. It retains the moisture that you have in the soil already. Any new moisture, it holds it there with the grooves in the soil and lets it absorb and hold there.
Yep.
It keeps erosion down. It just gets the plot up and going, and then it just makes for a better overall performing food plot. And I always say, he with the best food plots wins.
That's a fact.
It is a fact.
Yeah.
And here in Michigan, we can't bait anymore. And so this food plots have just exploded. And if you have Michigan is separated in, there's a lot of small parcels. And so if there's, we have a 160, and that's like almost unheard of in Michigan.
Sure.
And which is crazy. But if you have a 10-acre parcel, you have no other way of getting deer to use this parcel besides habitat improvements and food plots to get them in there and keep them there. So they've been a very, it's been a great, great business for me, and we've done fantastic, and it's just been a huge blessing. And again, it's a lot of people, I'm living the dream. I really am. And so
Well, you're about to be living the
cool.
dream more when you're slinging about $30 million in land a year,
I mean,
and the Packer Max is running in the background.
right,
so
and that's my son's running Packer Max. That'll be perfect.
now we're talking.
Well, I
Now
mean,
we're
you
talking.
can take
Right.
what you've learned from talking with people over the years, sending in, testimonials,
Yep.
and applying that to people that want to buy land and, hey, I'm buying this 40 acres of land. I don't know what to do with it. I mean, Chad, same thing with you. I think that's a lot of our strong suits, with the people in UC Hunting Properties is we're not just there to do the paperwork and sell them a property.
Right, 100%.
I was on a call today that a guy put an offer, and he said, hey, when I get this thing bought, are you going to be able to help me out and understand what to do? And I said, that's when the fun begins. I said,
Right.
Once we get the land bought, then we start having some fun with it. And we're there beyond the sale, and it's part of our business, but, we're like-minded people with our clients, and they become friends. And, when you get that picture of them their son or daughter or another family member
Yep.
shooting a deer on that property.
Yep.
Sometimes
pretty
it brings
cool.
a little
Right.
tear to your eye.
Yeah, yeah.
mean-
And I'm sitting here. I was just thinking about this, and Lincoln, we haven't even touched on it yet. Obviously, you are a huge deer hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So not only does he understand the food plot game and the implement side of that, and what success can come from doing food plots right, you're exercising it. You do a lot of hunting. You had a tremendous season.
Yep.
In 22. Just let's walk through the 22-year season. Tell us about it and share some of that success story.
God,
'cause,
here we go.
yeah, I mean, there's big
I'll
deer
try to
hitting
keep
the
it
ground all
short.
over.
But
Do we got to make sure your wife doesn't hear all the things?
no, speaking of my wife, I've got a absolute saint for a wife, and everybody tells me that. And I married up hardcore. Like,
Well, join the
We all
join the
did.
club.
We
I
all
mean-
did.
yeah, I mean, you have to if you're a deer hunter. But I mean, I married up like a good solid 5 points, which is almost unheard of. So I started out this year. I always set goals. Like this year, I'm setting goals for next year or this coming fall, and like I wanted to just harvest quality bucks in multiple states in a province, and so I set myself up to do that. I have a lease in Illinois, and I have a lease in Ohio now, and we've got our property here in Michigan, and so I started out the season on our Michigan property, and as we expected, it was a tough start to the season. But then I went to Saskatchewan, October 18th. 6 days, I was in the stand, sun up to sundown, 6 days straight. That is a mind game.
I'm with you. I
Absolutely.
did Alberta.
Yep, same thing.
45 hours.
Yep.
The 5th day finally.
Yep.
It'll wear with you.
It wears on. Like I wanted to take my safety rope, wrap it around my neck, and swan dive out of it. I mean, it literally gets to that point. Like, oh my God! Or if you're in a blind, like you just want to. I can't breathe in this thing. I got to get out of here. So anyway, day 6, talking it over with my guide, and he said we've been getting this giant, behemoth of a buck on camera. He's old. He's not a giant rack, but he's probably bigger than what we are giving him credit for. Would you be interested in going after that buck? I said, I would love that. I said, I half for hunting in Canada for me is age and body size. So we set me up on this deer that we had trail cam pictures of, and I'm telling you, it was 302 pounds field dressed. It was 141 inches, mainframe 8, which is a
Very
very
big,
nice
yeah.
8. He had 6.5-inch bases. I mean, just a monster. Normally when you find a deer, I've experienced anyway in my hunting career, ground shrinkage.
Oh yeah.
Well, this had ground expansion, and I was so happy when I found this deer. He came in. There was a 250-pound 8-point on the we hunt over hay and oats, and that deer dwarfed. The one I shot dwarfed that deer.
Well, that picture you showed us, when he was up on the skinning rack or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're standing next to it, and
Yeah.
Lincoln, you're not I would say you're an average sized dude,
Yeah.
but you're definitely not small.
Right.
And that deer just dwarfs
Oh
you.
yeah.
That trail cam
It's a
picture, I mean, it
monster.
looked like it should have been in a pasture.
Yeah,
Right.
it
Right.
looked like a little steer. It's like,
Yeah.
what is that thing doing out here?
Yeah,
Takes
little
the same
State
kind of
Buff
steroids
marshmallow
you
in
do,
him.
Kurt.
Yeah.
So on a
Don't
what
give
do you
my secrets away.
what do you guess on a field dress? Would you say 304?
It was 302.
302.
Yeah.
So what does a gut pile weigh on a 300-pound deer? Had to be pushing 400 pounds.
I believe they
live
say
weight.
it's roughly like 20%, isn't it?
Thought it was
Or-
20
I would have said 30 to 40 pounds of guts is probably
Yeah.
coming out of it.
Something
And
like
I-
that.
I've had that in like 3-year-old deer. I've had 30, 40 pounds of guts.
Well,
I
you
would
are
bet.
very well experienced with 3-year-old deer, Thelen.
We're from Michigan.
Here in Michigan, right? We have a lot of
That's actually
experience.
really good. I mean, we
Killing
were talking
tomorrow's
about that a little
trophies
bit.
today.
You can
Pure
only
Michigan.
shoot what you have in an area.
Yeah.
And
It'd
in
be 3-year-olds.
Michigan, if you're shooting a 3-year-old deer every year,
an
you're
accomplishment.
kind of doing something.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Seriously.
Damn right.
Like I said, killing tomorrow's trophies today
Gotcha.
with Chad Thelen.
Put them in the truck.
All right, so you killed a whopper in Canada.
Killed a big old in sent the teeth in. It was 8.5 years old, so it was a trophy in my book anyway. And so then I get home, I take my wife out for dinner, and washed my camo, repacked, and headed to my lease in Illinois, and hunted there 6 days straight, almost sun up to sundown. I had a lot of hours in the stand and hunted hard, probably as hard as I've ever hunted.
Targeting any specific buck or a couple bucks? Or
my main target was, when I'm there, I really try to target the 140-inch, and bigger. But we had one that I had been hunting last year. We called him Triple X for deer. We had a lot of deer porn pictures of him, so we called him Triple X. And he was probably pushing 190 this year. I got a piece of him last year. Unfortunately, I hit high and wasn't able to recover him. So, but he was chasing does, a week later. So, he gave me the slip with the gun too. So, anyway, I really wanted that deer. Well, I hunted hard in places where we knew he was. We had a lot of intel. No show. Passed up a lot of bucks. And on day 6, my buddy had to go back home. He has a real job, and he had to leave. And so I said, I'm staying until I shoot something. So that morning, I'm sitting in the stand, and I hear the old grunt, and the leaves crunching, leaves crunching.
About to go down, yeah.
Yep, it's happening. So this deer comes up. He's following a doe in and crosses a creek, steps up onto the side of the bank, and it's just an absolutely beautiful 10-point, and ended up being just under 140, which to a lot of people, they pull their nose up at it, but it was a beautiful deer. I mean, you saw pictures of him, and
it was a gorgeous deer.
Tall, just and so I harvested him, and on day 6, and I was thrilled with the deer. I mean, it's just one of those things, he's just a beautiful buck. And so came back to Michigan, hunted with my dad for a couple days with a gun, and went back down to Illinois for shotgun season. Didn't see Triple X again. We got pictures of him. Gave us, just
any
wrong place,
intel on him at this point? I mean, do you know, did he make it?
So I do not know if he's still. I have cameras running down there yet, and I have not gotten a picture of him since basically gun season. We had some trespassers park their truck and go on the backside of our lease and trespass to recover a deer, and they parked on the main drive where we have a camera that we were getting him coming across the road.
Oofta.
And since they parked there, we have not got a picture of him. So
spooky.
Yeah. So he might have, I don't know. It's really bizarre. So anyway, no intel on him yet. So I don't know if he's alive or not.
We'll cross our fingers, because losing a 190 is going to hurt.
Yeah. I'll show you a picture. I didn't show you the picture of him, but I'll show you a picture. He's special. He's just an absolute stud. And so, if he's still around, we'll go after him again next year. But
chase continues.
Continues. So then I got back from that hunt and took my wife out for dinner and did my camo. I washed my camo and headed to Ohio.
Shit, he really is living the dream, ain't he?
So hunted in Ohio 6 straight days, and with this buck in mind, it's a giant 10-point, and again, giant in my eyes anyway. And I really wanted this buck. I was playing cat and mouse, 2 stands with him, and he'd be here and I'd be there, and vice versa, one of those things. And so finally, I saw him Friday night. I had my attention was diverted by about 140-inch 8-point, and it was right at shooting light, so I couldn't shoot that deer, and I was looking at him, and I looked down the hill, and there is a mega giant standing down there, and all I could see, by this time it's past shooting light, and I'm
Sure.
like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Pretty sure it was him. So I'm thought, well, I'm going back to the well the next day. I proceeded to climb up the mountain. I got about 5 feet from the stand or from the blind, and I lost my footing. And I had the backpack on, the gun, the binos, all this upper body, my gut, all this upper body weight, and I started going backwards when the footing, it had rained, so it was muddy.
Sure.
And I grabbed a branch, and the branch broke, and I went tumbling down backwards down the mountain. Fortunately, I hit a few rocks on the way down. Might have knocked some sense into me. I don't know.
Couldn't have hurt anything.
No, definitely couldn't. Except for my pride. I looked to make sure nobody was watching, and so I must have rolled 40. I mean, I went a ways. I'm
Sure.
lucky. I'm fortunate I didn't get hurt. So I thought, well, I guess I'm gonna crawl back up there and see if I can get in the blind this time. So
Try this over.
yeah, so I get back, I get in blind, and I clean my gun off. I got the field wipes. I'm wiping it down. I look down the barrel. It's a pro hunter, so I break it open, and it's mud. So I jam a stick. I happen to look outside the blind. There's this perfectly straight stick. It was about that long. It was like the good Lord just said, here, dummy. Clean your barrel out with this, and don't fall back down the hill this
smart enough
time.
to look down your barrel.
Oh yeah. First thing that was. So I don't even know if I can hit a school bus with this gun at this point. I just went down a giant hill, and I'm thinking, well, I gotta give it a go. I said, if I'm gonna shoot that big one, it's gonna be tonight. After
Sure.
I just shook off all my bad juju, and he's gonna come wandering in. So sure enough, I had a couple of deer come in. I spotted him to the right. He's through a bunch of crap. He can't get a shot. He blows out a scrape, and he puts his antlers up in the trees, and I'm just like, oh my God. And that self-talk, you just calm down. This is your chance. This is what you've been waiting for. This is the biggest deer of your life. Don't screw this up. He's gonna walk out, and you're gonna smoke him.
This is happening.
So he wags his tail, turns around, and starts walking away. I'm like, no. So I get down on one knee, and I use the blind for a brace. I'm just looking for a hole. I see the hole. He steps into it. I touch the trigger. He takes off. I got no indication of a hit, nothing. He turns, he goes up this finger, and I could see him going for a ways. Well, then I lose sight of him. I hear this big crash, and I'm thinking, I think he just went down. And then I hear another crash. I'm thinking that was the final lunge right there. But
Because
then
you know what that sounds like, because you had just fallen down there.
I do exactly. I knew exactly what it sounded
He's
like.
jumped there. Yep. I know how.
There's a second little. That was good. You're right.
Yeah, we need that. Now is when we need the soundboard.
So anyway, you guys have all been there. You start second guessing everything. Was it a good shot? Did I even hit him? Was the gun on? I don't know. So
For sure.
go back, get the guy as we come back up. We can't find any blood down where I marked where he was standing. And I said, I watched him go right up this finger. I know he went up this finger. I heard him crash. Let's just walk up the finger, see what we can find. So one of the guys stayed down and was looking for blood still. My nephew and I walked up the hill, and he says, hey, Link, I got him. And I let out a war hoot like you've never heard. Every dog within 5 square miles started barking, and ended up being a 163 and an eighth, 10-point.
Congratulations.
Just a tall, majestic rack. And
Yeah.
so that was it, man.
You get to that 160 range, and you're talking about some serious antler.
Yeah.
And I don't care where you're hunting.
I don't care where you're on. And you start flipping through, these bucks that the juries are shooting and stuff. And, the 160 is when your boy shot a 160 down there, almost 170, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But there's some freaking bone there, man. That's a lot of bone. So biggest deer of my life. So I had 441 inches in one season. So
very solid, nice work.
And you stayed married all the same.
And so far I've managed to stay married, and I didn't break any bones.
Just hurt your pride a little bit rolling down the hill.
Pride's a little hurt, but
that's all right.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. So I was gonna to kind of bring it back full circle, because I think we could just tell deer stories all day, and I'd be okay with that. Right. But I'm gonna put you both on the spot with I'll say it's a question, but it's probably gonna be more of a series of questions, and you guys can fire away at this. So you're both directly involved in what I would call the food plot industry. Chad, obviously you're doing land management, but you're also selling a lot of dirt. Link, you got vast knowledge of food plot business, and you even own an implement company that assists us food plotters in doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go, this is going to get controversial, I have a feeling, but I want both of you to give me your read on where we stand as hunters with CWD. And I bring it up because food plots are controversial when it comes to this topic, and I want your opinion on it. So Chad, you can take it first, or Link, I don't care.
I'm not sure our opinions are probably close to the same, but
We're about to find out.
right, we're about to find out.
So with
Because I damn sure have an opinion.
so I'm part of my bio that we didn't talk about is I've been the branch president of the Clinton-Ionia County QDMA, now National Deer Association. I started the branch in 2005. So CWD was found in Michigan. One of its earliest findings was real close to our home location there. And I'm also the state habitat coordinator for the NDA.
Okay.
So I was asked by, I don't know if it was the NRC or the DNR, to sit on a CWD advisory panel when shit hit the fan, basically.
Yeah.
It was like 08, wasn't it? Ish.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, 12, 13, something. Anyway, yeah, a long time ago.
Yep.
But so sat on an advisory panel for days. I mean, like literally, these weren't just hour-long meetings. These were day-long meetings.
When I remember, when this thing started creeping its head up, I mean, people were freaked out, literally.
They still might be.
I mean, I consider it like the COVID scare, like
Of the outdoor world.
it is. When I was going through the COVID scare here, I'm thinking, man, I'm reliving CWD, like with all the numbers they're throwing out and prevalence rates and all this.
The
crap.
difference is we should have called people like they wanted to call.
You're
deer, but
right.
That's another discussion for another day.
Right.
Bingo.
Purge.
Yeah, no, so, it was. The sky was falling there for a while. And, of course, my livelihood is deer.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen to me personally as a business owner?
For sure.
Not just let alone, are we going to be able to, because if you can't eat the venison, then what?
A lot of people would be out.
Right.
Like, I mean,
Right.
literally, they wouldn't hunt.
Right.
Do you guys see a bunch of people just dumping their land to, get as much value out of it? I mean, in Wisconsin, we've seen people just saying, well, I got to get out of this before I lose all my value.
I saw more of it, people change their attention of where they were looking to purchase land.
Okay.
Yep.
Because we had these hot spots. One of the biggest hot spots was basically in the city of Lansing, but Okemos, they were city deer, and that's where they found a bunch of them. But then when they started popping up out in rural areas, I really saw the guys say, well, no, we're not going to buy anything in this county for a while because it's a hot spot. And, we're just going to wait. The land values are going to go down $1,000 an acre or something like that because of this. And yeah, no, they should have still bought, because now it's $2,000 an acre more than it was.
And the hunting's probably better than it's ever been.
Yeah,
It is what you make it.
Yeah.
And if I don't know, it's not that hot of a topic anymore, even though there's still some. I got burned out with all that stuff, being on those panels, and I just got so burnt out.
And Chad, just so the listeners all hear, I mean, give us high-level synopsis of how Michigan handled it or proceeded with post-CWD. It's here. What now? I mean, I guess I've heard tidbits of what Michigan did. Obviously, I think everyone's heard about what Wisconsin did or continues to do even, I believe. What did Michigan do? How'd they handle it?
So bring in the sharpshooters, try to wipe out the family groups within that area, test every single one of them, and see how hot the hot zone is. That upset a lot of landowners.
Big time.
big time. I mean,
Rightly so.
I mean, there's a situation where they, so a landowner allowed these sharpshooters on his property just to upset his neighbor because they didn't get along.
Oh boy.
So yeah, that turned into a whole, like, people went to jail that night over that one because it got physical and anyway. But so yeah, I mean, sharpshooters come in, they test. We have all these testing locations right off the bat. Trying to think of what else they all did, but let's test every single one of them. Let's see what happens, and we weren't getting a lot of positives. I don't know.
Outside that area.
Yeah, outside that.
Well,
in some, there's it's still popping up here and there. But what's so aggravating is, you want to get controversial. So these universities, right, in these natural resource offices, asking for millions and millions of dollars from our government to do research.
Yep.
They get this money. Within a couple years, almost all these testing locations are gone. You now would have to probably drive at least a half an hour to get your deer tested.
Oh, more than that.
45 minutes. It's such a horrible, horrible disease. And all these universities and places got millions of dollars to do research, and they still are. But yet we can't get effing testing locations in every county.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think your disease is all that bad.
So here's a question, Chad. You'd know this with your affiliation and background. How many positive CWD tests? Oh, let me back up. I'm saying this wrong. How many deer has CWD killed because of the disease in Michigan? Goose egg.
0.
Yeah.
They've all been killed with cars or bullets.
Yeah, we killed them because of the scare that was created. I think last I knew, Iowa was the exact same way. So, of course, we got CWD. We're dealing with it. We happen to be in one of the counties that is considered a hot zone. And last I knew, there isn't a single dead deer related to CWD unless we killed it.
Right. Well, that's the other thing that they did, and the same thing when COVID hit. It was the prevalence rates were always jacked up, and their modeling was so far off because they were only testing in areas where they had it, where they knew it existed. So they're only testing there. So yeah, of course, and they're only testing animals. So the prevalence rate was higher because they're only testing animals from this area.
Well,
so,
Link, I got a kick out of it because in our area, we were at a meeting and it was getting discussed, and obviously there were some for, some against, whatever, right? It was a mixed crowd. And they did put their modeling up. Hey, this is the amount of tests we did. Here's the positives. And I was sitting with a buddy, and he actually called it out. And he goes, well, based on your modeling and the results, this thing's declining. Against the amount of tests you guys are running, you're actually finding less of it. Yes, there's more positives, but you tested 10,000 deer instead of 100.
Right.
This thing's trending down. It's not trending up. And it was kind of a showstopper that day in that meeting because they didn't really have a good response to it. So,
well, the only thing, like, Iowa has not done the sharpshooter, we will eradicate, which I'll give them kudos for, because I don't agree with they were just going to wipe them off the face of the earth and see what happens.
Especially on private property, right? Like, there's a line in the sand. You're the one paying the taxes. It's very controversial, but
well, in our real estate world, that's the guy. There was a guy in Minnesota that he bought a farm just for hunting, paid good money for it because of the hunting, and that was part of the value of it, of course. And they got on the neighbors, baited them all off, shot them all, and now he's got a chunk of dirt that has no deer on it. So now he's looking at it, go, man, I get shooting a few deer and stuff, but you've just destroyed all my value on my farm. In his mind, in particular, because I mean, a ton of it for us as hunters too is very emotional. Like,
Sure. A lot of it
If it's
is.
a century farm or something like that, or a family farm, you're definitely vested.
Yeah.
But he purchased that farm for hunting, and now it's not a hunting farm anymore.
And because of something out of his control. I mean,
Yeah.
that is what's probably irks me more
That's-
than anything about the whole conversation.
Yeah, and that's a similar thing that's happened to my family property in Newego is, so they changed the regulations, okay, in within the core. So there's never been a positive deer found in our county yet. We're in the actual core. Never a positive, but we're in the core.
Yeah.
And there's some different opinions as to why that is. My deer hunting group in Michigan, we have 40,000 members. We were trying to get them to implement antler point restrictions, and it became kind of a combative group with the department. And so whatever the case may be, they changed the regulations to where we can shoot 2 of any size buck with no restrictions at all, 10 does. Okay, and you can shoot a doe on each one of your buck tags
Sure.
if you so choose,
Sure.
with any weapon. So we no longer have a muzzleloader season within the Corps. It's a secondary rifle season. So we have guys hunting whitetails in Michigan from November 15th through, with 1 day break, through December 10th.
Solid, yeah.
Solid with deer rifles. So we were actually looking at selling our property and doing something a little further south, even though my dad has owned this property for 40 years. I was on this property. I don't even know what life looks like without that property.
Sure.
I really don't. Like, what would I do? And so we were looking at selling it because I was afraid of what's going to happen. Like, based on what we know now, it would be very difficult to sell that property for what we could have gotten for it
Sure.
pre-CWD.
Sure.
It'd be tough.
Well, Link,
And
I'm sticking to my
so-
guns. I've said for a few years, and I'm going to say it again, I think I've killed more deer than CWD total.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
controversial topic,
Yeah.
but I had to
agree.
go there, and I
Yeah.
I knew it would be near and dear to both of you because of your background and where you're at professionally. But guys, I think we're crowding about an hour, so we're going to start steering the ship to wrap
Sure.
this thing up. Best practice, you each get a crack at this one too. Food plotting. I think I know what Link's going to say, but if you had one thing to share with the listeners, best practice when it comes to food plotting, what is it, Chad?
Holy crap.
It's a tough one.
Put him under the gun and he caves. Fine. Link,
Best
you're
practice.
up. No, I'm just kidding.
Do that soil test.
Okay. Soil test. I'm
Soil
100% in
It's
agreement
a
with
boring
you.
answer. Sorry, but
No, it is a boring
first
answer, but
step.
we could spend an hour talking about
Oh, yeah.
soil samples and why they're important. So I like that answer. It's a good answer. Link, you?
So I'm actually doing a seminar at the SCI convention here in a couple of weeks, and that's number one, top of my list is start with a soil test, because you have, even if it's something you've been planting, you have no idea
Where you're at.
You don't know what your pH is. You don't know how much, of the three PK and H or N's that you need. You don't have any clue where to start. So I had an old farmer tell me one time, if you can only afford to buy lime or fertilizer, buy lime.
It's the cheapest fertilizer there is.
It is, because
hypothetically.
you're gonna unlock the
Extract
nutrients
it,
that is
yeah.
there.
You got it.
So I think a soil test is absolutely critical in successful food plots, and a cultipacker.
Yeah,
I mean,
here comes
I'm
the
here to
plug.
tell you,
Jeez, way to
You
set
know,
that one up
Got to
for
be a
him.
Packer, man.
that Packer Max cultipacker is going to make that once you're invested into the lime and the fertilizer and the seed, and you're gonna get it all perfect, and then you're gonna cultipack it, and with a Packer Max, and it's just gonna be unbelievable. It's gonna,
Guaranteed.
guaranteed.
What do we charge?
You heard it here.
What do we charge for 30-second commercial?
We're going to get into that once these episodes come off.
Right,
You
I'm
get
sure.
80%, I get 20%.
I'm sure that'll come up
Treat this
later.
like a closing.
Yeah. So let's bring it full circle, boys. So, number one, thank you for allowing us to come up to Michigan. This has been a blast getting to know you guys.
Same.
We're excited in what you guys could do, and I hope if a listener's out there and again interested in buying or selling, investing in land in Michigan, I don't know if there'd be a better duo in the state of Michigan to work with on a true recreational farm. I think you guys would be definitely subject matter experts they need to look up. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate
Anything
it.
else, boys?
No, I think we got her covered.
We got her covered.
As long as we get to take care of Link on that commercial.
Yeah, we'll take care of Link. We'll take care of
Where's
Link.
that contract?
Yeah.
We'll send him an
them to sign
invoice
it.
when it's all
My
done.
checkbook's back at the shop.
Oh, we got it's 30 days to pay.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
You
we'll give
guys,
you terms.
you guys
We'll
give
you
terms.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
will, guilty plug for our side, too, UC Hunting Property members, we are going to work out a deal with Lincoln, and we are going to get Packer Max on our preferred vendor list, and hopefully we can work out some kind of a deal for anyone listening and their clientele. So,
Absolutely.
And keep an eye on for some new stuff that's coming out, and that's all I'm going to say on the pack.
I agree with that. There's some exciting
Right.
stuff happening.
Yeah, there might be a launch somewhere around the Iowa Classic if it all works out. So
And there
we'll
might
see.
be one in the back of Kurt Headington's truck leaving the Iowa Deer Classic.
Nice.
All
Hey,
right,
we want
guys,
to
I
say,
appreciate
hey,
it.
one thing quick.
Yeah.
We're excited as hell.
Oh yeah.
Let's stay fired up,
Yep.
guys. I think the market's turning, but I think it's the right time too for this team to be coming together. So we're excited for you.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming up and like Chad said, and yeah, I'm pretty excited about it too.
Fair
We
enough.
all
It'll
are.
be good.
And if you've done business in the past with Lincoln, plan on getting a letter in the very near future.
Yep.
We're gonna end with that. Thanks, guys.
All right, peace out.
See ya.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Stand on Your Investment podcast presented by UC Hunting Properties and Expedition Land Management.